What's going on, guys, and welcome back to #AskGSM episode 291 here today for Wednesday, June 26th, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. And we got a pretty busy weekend of wrestling coming up, coming off of Stomping Grounds on Sunday, which ended up being way better than expected, by the way. This Friday, we have Ring of Honor Best in the World, which I'm looking forward to, and then AEW Fyter Fest on Saturday. So within the span of like 5 or 6 days, we have a lot of really good wrestling. Again, Stomping Grounds was way better than it had any right to be, considering how bad the build-up was. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, guys, if you want to send in questions here to the show on #AskGSM, where I answer your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. On Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave your question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Real quickly, too, last week I mentioned that we had a great interview lined up for WrestleRant Radio last week, which it was Kelly Klein, the Women of Honor World Champion from Ring of Honor. Great time talking to her about all things Best in the World and beyond, going into Best in the World on Friday. We have another awesome Ring of Honor guest on this week's WrestleRant Radio. I might as well announce it now. The Ring of Honor World Television Champion. So 2 champions within 2 weeks on WrestleRant Radio. Shane Taylor is going to be on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow, this Thursday, dropping tonight, hopefully at midnight. Talking all things Best in the World, his reign as the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, and everything else ROH. So be sure to check out that interview as well on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow. Speaking of WrestleRant Radio, this is all relatively recent, so I might as well mention it here as well, that we are now available on pretty much every platform imaginable. Since Sunday, I've now gotten WrestleRant Radio, in addition to nextdaywrestling.net and iTunes. We are also now on Stitcher, Spotify, we're on TuneIn, we're on iHeartRadio, which I think we were already on to begin with, and Google Play. So now you have no excuse to not listen to WrestleRant Radio. New episodes are available every single Thursday. This Thursday's episode will be every bit as stacked as every episode that's come before it, if not more so. Talking again with Shane Taylor, the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, going into Best in the World on Friday, giving my predictions for ROH Best in the World, AEW Fyter Fest, as well as my review of Stomping Grounds from Sunday night. So again, plenty to talk about on WrestleRant Radio on Thursday. Let's talk #AskGSM here today. So our first question comes from Scorn Wrestling from YouTube. So shout out real quick to Scorn Wrestling, who pointed out to me in the comments of last week's video, where I made this comment during the course of the video that I think it had been 2 or 3 years since our last multi-man match at the Cruiserweight Championship. They thankfully reminded me, and I don't know how I forgot about this, that we had a 4-way for the Cruiserweight Championship on the Royal Rumble kickoff show just 4 or 5 months ago with Buddy Murphy, Hideo Itami, Akira Tozawa, and Kalisto, I think it was. And it was a great 4-way too. I don't know how I forgot about that. But yeah, so thanks to him for correcting me on that. But their question was, they added in a question in their comment a little later on, do you think we'll see Johnny Gargano in NXT again before SummerSlam? I think so. I don't really look at the NXT TV spoilers, though I haven't heard anything about Johnny Gargano. I heard about the breakout tournament before it was announced last Wednesday. Sometimes you have no choice. If you're on Twitter, you almost have no chance of not being spoiled by the NXT TV tapings because people are posting spoilers. I mean, maybe it's just the people I follow. Maybe that's the problem. But people are posting spoilers all fucking night from when the tapings are taking place. But I didn't hear or see anything about Johnny Gargano. And we have not seen Johnny Gargano on NXT TV since he lost the NXT Championship to Adam Cole earlier this month. Now, I don't think they're setting up Gargano Cole 3. I guess they could be, and I would not be opposed to it. Now, rematches, I'm not big on rematches, but the first 2 matches were so fucking good, I would make an exception for this. So I could see them setting that up, TakeOver, well, I was going to say TakeOver Toronto 2 is not for another 2 months, but I think they wrapped up the entire build for the event. I think their last set of TV tapings a week or 2 ago, I think those were the last set of TV tapings before TakeOver in August. So, again, I don't read the TV taping spoilers. I don't know. So I'm excited to find out as much as you are. I think we will. I'd be surprised if we went a takeover without Johnny Gargano. I don't want to see the guy get called up. I know that was a hot topic of conversation coming out of TakeOver 25 that, he's no longer NXT champion. Time to call him up. He's done everything in NXT. Yeah, maybe so, but I am so worried about his future on Raw or SmackDown. SmackDown is literally Raw 2.0 right now. So the days of, going to SmackDown over Raw, is definitely the smarter option. Those are long gone. SmackDown is probably in worse shape than Raw at this point, because it's literally all the same people that you see on Raw on SmackDown. Bayley, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Roman Reigns, The Miz, Drew McIntyre, Elias, Shane McMahon. All the same fucking people. The New Day, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan. It's all the same people. It's literally Raw Super Show all over again. So I hope to God that is not in the cards for Johnny Gargano anytime soon. But that being said, I do think he will be on NXT TV again before SummerSlam weekend in a few months. But I could be wrong. Captain Sunshine, also from YouTube, their question was, I stopped watching Raw in January, and I've stopped watching less and less of WWE's other programming since I gave up on SmackDown when the wild card rule and Shane dominated the show. And I even canceled my network subscription last month because, to be honest, I've only used it for the pay-per-views and NXT TakeOver, and have gotten to the point where I would rather watch the low-pitch videos and cut-up highlights people put online of the shows than spend the monthly $9.99. All this to say, WWE stars yelling at fans for not liking WWE enough or the right way is never going to be a good look, and personally, it's the kind of thing that finally got to me. If the company that enforced themselves as the only game in town by openly trying to absorb everything that wasn't/isn't WWE by turning it into WWE while routinely, and regularly talking down anyone that likes WWE is fond of themselves, good for them. But as a fandom to be in, it's exhausting at best and outright toxic at worst. I don't know how none of this is even original. I know none of this is even original. I'm not the first or last to get this melodramatic, but what other entity treats an audience like this? At what point is it just not enough? Is it not worth sticking around for? That's a great question. I've seen that posed many, many times over the course of 2019 so far. I have nothing to tell you. I really don't. I can't sit here and tell you, you should be watching Raw, you should be watching SmackDown. Absolutely not. It's your choice. If you don't want to watch the shows, and quite honestly, I don't blame you, I would implore people to probably not tune in. I tune in because I love it. But not only that, you love it too. A lot of people love wrestling, but I also cover it. I can't really write articles and do shows, do this show, do Wrestle Rant Radio, write articles about it if I'm not watching the product. So that kind of defeats the purpose. So I'll always be watching no matter what. Other people who have no stakes in wrestling, who only watch it to enjoy themselves and for the ultimate escape that it provides them from reality, if they don't get that same sort of satisfaction from watching wrestling anymore, then you are absolutely inclined, it is your incentive, it is your choice to not watch the show. And I don't blame anyone for that. I'm not going to sit here and say, you're not a real fan if you don't watch WWE, or even you're not a real fan if you don't watch AEW, because at the end of the day, it's any one fan's choice what they want to watch. You can watch WWE, you can watch AEW, you can watch both. That's what I would recommend doing. But sometimes, like you said, it's really toxic to be a fan sometimes. I don't blame Seth. I know this wasn't really your question. I think this ties into it. With him saying that, we got the best wrestling in the world. Of course he's going to fucking say that. He's their guy. He's the Universal Champion. He's in possession of their top title right now. Of course he's going to say that. And if he believes that way, even better. I don't think so. I think they have the best roster in the world. That doesn't mean they have the best wrestling in the world. Maybe on NXT. The main roster, I don't think so. I've really had a tough time coming up with a top 5 best matches on the WWE main roster in 2019. I know John Ritlin asked me about it last week here on the show. I don't know. I really cannot come up with a list for you that doesn't include NXT. That's tough. That's really, really tough. WrestleMania had some good matches. The only really great match, in my opinion, was Kofi and Bryan. Nothing else on that card came close to me as being, holy shit, that was amazing. Some great moments. WWE's had some good moments this year. A lot more bad than good, but they've had some good moments. But not like any really amazing matches the same way that 2016 did, 2015 did, 2017, and even last year. NXT has blown Raw and SmackDown out of the water. So now it's at a point where the creative is even worse than, as the in-ring action has matched the poor creative direction. It started to affect that as well. But yeah, to really answer your question, only you or anyone watching can decide when enough is enough. If you feel that I can't deal with this anymore, I feel like they're insulting my intelligence as a fan, I get no enjoyment, entertainment, or satisfaction out of watching this product anymore, I'm done. That's all I could say is really it's up to that one person. It's not for me to say, any other wrestling expert or whatever the fuck. It's really up to you. And if you feel like, hey, I'm done, enough is enough, I'm moving on, and that's it, then more power to you. I implore that on people. I think taking that extra step, and I feel like I'm talking about like becoming sober or not doing drugs anymore. Like enough is enough, but like I feel like with Raw and SmackDown, it's like doing drugs sometimes because you're watching the show each and every week because that's all you know for the last 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And it's hard to say no. Like, I don't want to watch anymore, despite the pain that it brings you every Monday and Tuesday night. So, yeah, I mean, I think signing up for the network, I mean, if you don't want to pay them $9.99, I'm not paying your $9.99 for you, so who am I to say? I think the network is worth it alone for the content they provide. Like you said, I mean, the pay-per-views, yeah, but I'm talking about the takeovers. I'm talking about 205 Live, NXT, WWE 24, the specials, WWE Untold, pretty much everything I talk about here on the channel on Network and Chill. I think that stuff is worth, and also all the old content, Raws, SmackDowns, everything. I think that's worth it for the $9.99 a month. But again, that's just me. That's just my opinion. So I'm glad you're taking the extra step and saying to yourself, listen, I'm done with this shit. I'm done being treated like I'm an idiot, like I'm being treated like, oh, you should like this stuff. What's wrong with you if you don't like WWE? I think that's great. So hopefully more people can take that extra step, can take that next step in just deciding enough is enough. I'm done with this shit because it doesn't seem like Raw and SmackDown are on any point of improving anytime soon. Yeah, Raw was a decent show this week. I thought it was a genuinely good show. That's one show. It's going to take a lot more than one good show to really set their creative direction back on the right track. Elena the Y from YouTube's got a couple questions here. First one being, tell me something really good about SmackDown Live last night that doesn't involve the 24/7 championship people and Dolph Ziggler losing a straightforward, clean match, so it can just be Kofi Kingston versus Samoa Joe at Extreme Rules. Not trying to be sarcastic, I would sincerely like to know. Nothing really. I thought the showcase of the tag team division was good. I thought that was a good tag team, 8-man tag team match. What we got last night, I hate the fucking 2 out of 3 falls shit, the elimination shit. I hate that stuff. I'll talk more about that in a moment. I think you actually asked a question about it with the commercial breaks and whatnot. But, yeah, when it comes to SmackDown last night, the 24/7 stuff wasn't as good on SmackDown as it was on Raw. I thought only really the highlight from SmackDown last night was the main event. I really enjoyed the main event, and that's coming from someone who did not like the first 2 matches between Kofi and Dolph at Super Showdown and Stomping Grounds, respectively. I thought that the 2 matches were very dull and boring, and I just didn't care. But they had the match they were capable of last night. I was happy to see that. I'm done with Kofi and Dolph. Let's please move the fuck on. Kofi and Samoa Joe I like a lot. I do. Doesn't make much sense. Samoa Joe just lost the U.S. title, and he hasn't won a big match in forever, but, whatever. I'm looking forward to the match nonetheless. I do want to shit on them for their lack of logic. I can't say, I like Samoa Joe, so we can completely excuse the fact that the guy's been a loser for the better part of the last 2 or 3 months. No, a fucking spade's a spade. The guy's a loser right now. He just lost the U.S. title, and now he's going for the WWE title. Kind of seems a bit ass backwards without him winning a number 1 contenders match or whatnot. But anyway, beyond that stuff, nothing. I would not watch SmackDown. I was not a big fan of SmackDown last night. I mean, I like Bayley and Cross, but like we've seen it before, Alexa Bliss getting back in the title picture again does nothing for me. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on SmackDown. I honestly did not think it was a good show at all. I thought the main event was great. Everything else was just not my cup of tea. The tag team stuff, maybe. Beyond that, nothing else intrigued me from SmackDown last night. Except for maybe Balor and Nakamura, but that was a 2-second segment backstage. Elena's second question. Lacey Evans versus Becky Lynch at Stomping Grounds is probably Lacey's best match, which, considering the awkward botch where Lacey forgot to get in position for Becky's corner kick, and Becky visibly shaking her head in frustration, I don't know is saying all that much. All that said, why are we building to a third title shot for both Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin? Honestly, just filler. That's my answer for you. It's filler before SummerSlam. I was worried they would do this. I was really hoping they would just get it out of the way on Raw this week. But realistically speaking, who are they going to heat up between now and Extreme Rules to get a title shot? Both Becky and Seth Rollins, that doesn't interfere with their SummerSlam plans. I don't know what they have planned for SummerSlam. I'm sure they don't even know what they have planned for SummerSlam. But whatever they have planned for SummerSlam should be big. Not involving Baron fucking Corbin. I'm done with that shit. And Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch. I'm done. But they got to get through Extreme Rules. They have way too many pay-per-views. This pay-per-view is not even necessary. They've announced 5 matches so far, maybe for the pay-per-view. Not a single fucking one has an Extreme Rules stipulation. What a waste. What a waste. This pay-per-view was one of the consistently best shows they ever put on. They put on all year from like its inception almost a decade ago up until maybe 2013, 2014. And then after that, it fell off a cliff because they don't really do the Extreme Rules shit anymore on these shows. Because they do it. We had a steel cage match of Money in the Bank and Stomping Grounds. So why would I care to see one at Extreme Rules? It makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, just filler. This is a filler pay-per-view before we get to SummerSlam. We're just at a point with these feuds where they can't really continue them. They can't really start something new, but they also don't want to rush into whatever they're doing for SummerSlam. They don't want to do a rematch from Extreme Rules at SummerSlam, from what it looks like. So I don't know who else you would heat up between now and the Extreme Rules, so it makes sense to do another match. I don't want to see it, just because Baron and Lacey lost decisively twice to Rollins and Becky respectively. At Money in the Bank, Stomping Grounds, Super Showdown, whatever. They've lost twice now. Not even once. Twice. And we know they're not winning here. So who cares? Who gives a shit? This is definitely going to be one of those skippable pay-per-views. But again, in their defense, who else would you put in that spot right now? It looks like they're doing that with the WWE title. Thank God they're moving away from Kofi and Dolph. But it looks like Samoa Joe is not going to be for the long term. I doubt they do Samoa Joe and Kofi again at SummerSlam. I doubt Kofi loses the belt at Extreme Rules. Honestly, I would love to see it. If anyone's going to take the belt off of Kofi, Samoa Joe is as good as anyone. That guy deserves a world title run at some point or another, and no better time than now. I don't see them doing that at SummerSlam. I feel like this is the equivalent of what we got at Extreme Rules last year with AJ and Rusev. It was a 1 month feud, and they moved on. So this year, it's Kofi and Samoa Joe with the Universal title. Who else? I mean, I guess they could pull people from SmackDown too, because Samoa Joe's from Raw, going for a SmackDown title. I think that's dumb, but whatever. For the Universal Championship, Bobby Lashley? The guy's fucking colder than ice right now. He's on ice. Braun Strowman, another loser who's done... The guy has not won a pay-per-view match. He's not even been in a pay-per-view match on the main card of a pay-per-view since Fastlane, where he lost to Baron fucking Corbin. That's a problem. So obviously not him. Samoa Joe, I guess they could have put in that spot with Rollins instead of Kofi. And with Kofi, I don't know where the hell Randy Orton is. Maybe he's taking time off. I don't know. But Randy and Kofi was my choice for Kofi's next feud after Stomping Grounds, after Dolph Ziggler. Again, they feuded a decade ago, but you can revisit that rivalry, bring up their history. Orton is a credible competitor. He's a perennial main event player. Beating him would mean something for Kofi. Kofi beating Sammy, Kevin, Dolph again does nothing for Kofi. He's kind of at a standstill right now. He's been booked great. I'm glad he's winning. That's awesome. Every other champion seems to fucking lose every week. And it's so frustrating because that's why these belts mean nothing. At least Kofi's winning. But he needs more elite competition than Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, who are all great competitors. The issue is that they've been booked into oblivion over the last month or two. They've been made out to look like the ultimate losers by constantly losing on Raw and SmackDown every single week and on pay-per-view. Owens and Zayn won on Sunday, but then they lost another 2 times on Raw and SmackDown this week, so who cares, I guess. So going back to your original question, they need fresh feuds, but I fear that they will not get to them for the Raw stuff for Rollins and Becky until SummerSlam. And it looks like that fear has come to fruition based off the announcement that we're getting Rollins and Becky versus Corbin and Evans at Extreme Rules next month. Elena's third question: I'll admit, I'd almost prefer WWE just going back to doing mid-match ad breaks if I wasn't so fascinated by their attempts to avoid mid-match ad breaks without disrupting the formula for TV. So far, we've introduced 2 out of 3 Falls matches with apparent rest periods and convoluted multi-stage elimination tag matches. What's next? Bringing back the Falls Count Anywhere format from WrestleMania 10 where you have to pin your opponent outside of the ring and then beat them by a 60-second countout? I declare bonus points if Sami Zayn is involved so he can take both the pin and the heel gives up caring about the win countout finish. God, that sounds awful. That sounds so bad. I really hope that's not what's next. I said this on Twitter last night, but if this is what they have planned, be careful what you wish for, I think is the real lesson learned here. It is really the real lesson learned here. Because if this is what we're going to be treated to, with no wrestling during commercials, which I actually like the idea of, because not many other companies do what WWE does. Very few other companies do commercials during their matches. Now, granted, no other wrestling company has a 3-hour fucking television show every Monday. That's a problem. But, like, one thing I loved about Lucha, Impact doesn't really do this. Honestly, not many other companies except for WWE do what they do. I don't know any other company that goes to commercial a minute into a match, halfway during a match. Unless it's a main event and it's like 20 minutes long, that's different. But like for every fucking match, to go to commercial a minute in, well, you know, after like the heel jumps to the out, or the babyface jumps to the outside, and then we come back from commercial and they're in a rest hold. It's the same fucking formulaic shit every week, and it has been that way for years now, for a long time. This is hardly a new phenomenon. I almost wish that we go back to doing that than what we've gotten so far in the last 2 weeks on TV. With the 2 out of 3 Falls matches, elimination matches. That shit is going to get old real quick. And good God, if we get rounds out-added to these matches, as has been rumored, I don't even know. And people we can't do the double standards here. Because when Impact did it years ago, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was dumb. Save that shit for boxing and MMA and stuff like that. It has no place in wrestling. I thought when Impact did it, it was dumb. I gave it a chance for a week or two and I thought it was stupid. Everyone lambasted Impact Wrestling for doing something so dumb. Yet those same people, maybe not everyone, but some people will likely be like, oh, it's a great idea to do in WWE. It's different. Yeah, I appreciate what's different too, unless it's really stupid, like something like that. So I really hope that's not where they're going with this, and that's not instituted at some point, because that sounds incredibly dumb. And yes, we're getting longer matches, but that means longer matches of matches I don't care about. For example, Owens and Zayn versus New Day. Again. 20 minutes devoted to this shit means a less time for Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, Liv Morgan, Ali, Andrade, and the whole SmackDown Live roster. SmackDown was so boring last night, so ungodly boring, because they devoted way too much TV time to matches and rematches and feuds I don't give two shits about. I like the Nikki Cross Alexa Bliss stuff, don't get me wrong. I just wish it was developing outside of the Bayley title picture. Bayley does not need to face Alexa Bliss again. She beat her decisively on Sunday. It's time to move on. Face someone from SmackDown, from your own division. Not another Raw wrestler, and that's exactly what happened. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. I loved Kofi and Dolph. It's another rematch. New Day versus Owens and Zayn. Another rematch. It's so predictable. So predictable. And the only fresh stuff that we got on the show last night lasted a minute. Sonya Deville and Ember Moon went all of 1 minute last night. Why even bother? Why even care? So, I don't know what the fuck is going on with this mid-match ad break shit. I guess it's okay for them to show the matches during commercials if it's in the corner of the screen like it has been on SmackDown the last couple of years. They did that a few times last night, so I guess that's okay. But they can't go for a commercial break and not show the wrestling in the corner. I don't know why they just don't do that on Raw. I guess it's a SmackDown thing for whatever reason. I don't know why. And it's not like it's a network thing, because USA Network, Raw and SmackDown are on the USA Network, so I don't know. But yeah, it's just been it somehow made Raw and SmackDown worse than they already were. And I thought Raw was a good show this week, but the overabundance of 2 out of 3 falls matches so far on the shows is atrocious. It's so stupid. There was a time where a match like that would mean something. Now it's just like, 2 times in one night, after already seeing it 2 or 3 times on Raw. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Karen H. from Facebook, their question was, what's your reaction about the Firefly Funhouse? I mean, I talked about this here on the show before, but I love it. I've been loving it since day one. Not everyone does, and that's fine. I think a majority of the people who watch Raw would say that it's one of the better parts, if not the best part of Raw every single week. There was no Firefly Funhouse this week, but we did get the characters, the critters, I guess. I don't know what you would call them, from Firefly Funhouse on Raw and SmackDown. Raw, they had Abby the Witch. And then they had, what's his name? I honestly forget. The crocodile thing. God, what was, I know it's based off of that wrestler, Dan Spivey's character. Oh my God, what is it? I don't know. I'm going to look it up right here on the show. I'm such an idiot. Let's see, Dan Whalen. Mercy the Buzzard. I didn't even have to type it in. Mercy the Buzzard. I'm such an idiot. And then Ramblin' Rabbit showed up on SmackDown, which I didn't spot the first time. I don't think I spotted any of these the first time, except for Abby the Witch, which was pretty obvious. And they showed Huskus backstage when Daniel Bryan was walking backstage on SmackDown. So they were on the shows this week. No Firefly Funhouse, which made me a little sad. But I think it's great. It's something new, creative. It has Bray Wyatt's fingerprints all over it. It's something new. Something different. And again, different isn't always good because the round shit is awful. But Bray Wyatt has a lot of creativity. And you give him that creativity, you give him the outlet, he's going to shine. Keep WWE as far away from that shit. But the issue is that he's going to have to come back to WWE's creative system when he turns to Raw. Alexis was trying to tell me that, maybe they won't touch his character. Like, they have no choice to. They have no choice but to book his character the way they want him to, the way that Vince wants to, if he's going to be on Raw and SmackDown. He cannot avoid that creative process. He's going to have to go through it eventually. And maybe not up to this point with the Firefly Funhouse stuff. Maybe he films all that stuff on his own and Vince has nothing to do with it, because if so, that's great. But he's going to have to come back to the writing process that is Vince McMahon and the awful shit that is nowadays at some point. So he's going to have to face the music eventually, whether it be sooner or later. Hopefully he can make the most of it and make it good, because so far what I've seen from Bray Wyatt is very intriguing. I'm very excited to see what is next for Bray Wyatt. The issue is, do I have enough faith in WWE to do the right thing with him? Probably not. But I do have enough faith in Bray Wyatt, who as a character has been booked like shit for 5-6 years now, but it seems like he still has enough creativity left in the tank to make this character work. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it when he resurfaces. Maybe a little too excited to the point where my expectations are lofty and they're going to end up disappointing me. But I guess time will tell. At Hardy DX fan, their question was, Ross, is it bad for me to think that they should have Drew McIntyre absolutely destroy The Undertaker at Extreme Rules and let him run with that heat? That's what I would love to see. I mean, again, The Undertaker return on Raw this week, I thought it was a cool moment. Don't get me wrong. I was there when he came back on Raw the night after WrestleMania this year. I thought it was a great moment. Alexis and I popped huge for it. It was cool. But like when the guy steps in the ring, it's all over. Now maybe it'll be a different story now that he's in a tag team match, and maybe he'll let Roman Reigns do most of the work. I don't know. I just think it's hypocritical for people to be like, this is such a great idea to have him involved in the Roman Reigns Shane Drew shit, which makes no sense. And maybe they'll explain it next week. I know how a TV show works. You got to find out how things transpire the week. I saw some wrestling fan blasting someone else on Twitter for saying, why don't you wait till next week, you dumb mark, or something along those lines. The issue is WWE never offers any explanation for anything. So it's not like, find out why this was next week here on Raw. They don't even do that shit. The consistency on these shows, I completely understand where that person who posed the question of, how does this make any sense? I understand where they're coming from. Because I don't expect WWE to explain it. After next week and they don't explain it, I can't wait for those same people to come across like fucking morons for not knowing what the hell they're talking about. If you've watched the show for any stretch of time, you would realize they don't explain anything. They either want you to figure it out and supply your own explanation for shit, or it doesn't matter. Don't ask questions, just deal with it. Just accept it, is WWE's mantra with a lot of their storylines. It doesn't have to make sense, but here you go anyway. I just think it's hypocritical for people to be like, oh, this is so great, when they just got done shitting on the guy for having a fucking terrible match at Super Showdown. The match sucked, and it's not a one-match issue either. And I hate to sound like I'm an Undertaker hater, I'm a big fan of the guy. It's always awesome to see him come back, especially make surprise returns. I think that's cool. The issue is, it's not a one-match problem. It's not like how he had a bad night at Super Showdown. It was hot. Has it been hot every fucking match he's had for the last 5 years now? Because I cannot name a single above-average, average Undertaker match in the last 5 years. The Brock Lesnar matches I liked. Not the first one at WrestleMania 30. That's where it really all fell apart. That match was awful. And not on purpose either. It just fucking sucked. The other matches he had with Lesnar I thought were good. The Hell in a Cell match I honestly thought was great. He hasn't had a great match since, honestly. And it's been 4 years. The match with Shane at WrestleMania 32 sucked. Fucking sucked. The match he had with Roman Reigns was even worse. And I was there for it. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, they're telling a good story. The match was terrible. The match sucked. The stuff with Triple H late last year sucked. The DX and Brothers of Destruction tag team match sucked. What else has he done? The Rusev match was exactly what you would expect it to be. The John Cena match went all of 2 minutes. That was never going to be a full-length match. The guy, he's been fucking phoning it in for years now. And I feel bad, because he should have retired 5-6 years ago. And it's cool to see him whenever he does pop up, but once that bell rings, it's all over. And again, maybe the match at Extreme Rules will be better than any other Undertaker match we've seen in the last 5 years, because WWE finally realized, oh, on his own, he can't hang anymore. He can't do it. It doesn't matter whether he's in there with a young guy, old guy, it doesn't matter. Even if you put him in there with a guy like an AJ or a Finn Balor, I still think they would find a way to make that disappointing. Even if AJ fucking carried him, I don't think it'd be a good match. Because Taker is just, at this point, the guy's falling apart at the fucking seams. And it's sad to see. So anyway, going back to my original point. Oh, it's such a great idea to have him in the tag team match. If you believe that, fine. But I just think it's stupid. Why not The Miz? Why not The Miz? While we're busy going nuts over The Undertaker coming back and teaming with Roman Reigns for absolutely no reason. And I'm sorry if I like logic in my pro wrestling. What about the fucking Miz? The Miz wants his hands on Shane McMahon. Why wouldn't he team with Roman Reigns? Because we've seen that match on TV before? Probably. And I'm not excited for that match. The only reason people are looking forward to this match is because The Undertaker is involved. And it was so fucking random, people are intrigued. I guess, but like, I didn't even get excited. And I tweeted on Monday, I think I was like, in all caps, Undertaker saving Roman Reigns is so fucking random, or something along those lines. LMAO. It was so random. The Elias thing I could forgive. The night after WrestleMania. It's the night after WrestleMania. They're going to have a lot of random moments that serve no purpose, that are just there to appease the live crowd. At this point, bring him back if you have something for him. I know this is a storyline, and it's not... I don't know what's more random, this or the Goldberg match. Because the Goldberg match, people shit on like, that's so fucking random, but I'll accept it because it's a dream match, I guess, in 2019. This is no different. So if you pooped on the Goldberg match for being random, no build-up, blah, 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 yes, I guess this will have more build-up because they have 3 weeks until the pay-per-view. Oh, whoop-de-doo. You have to shit on this match, too. Because it comes completely out of nowhere. What it was Undertaker watching Raw, seeing how badly Roman Reigns was being treated, and he decided to come save him. The same guy who almost ended his career at WrestleMania a few years ago. Yeah, give me a fucking break. The only saving grace of this match would be to see Drew beat the shit out of the Undertaker and pin him not Shane, Drew McIntyre, if he has any chance of redeeming himself from all the losses this loser has suffered since WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre, who was at one point on track to become the next Universal Champion. At this point, I have long given up on that dream. At this point, the only way to redeem him, and I don't even know if this would be enough, would be to have him beat the shit out of the Undertaker here and pin him. That would be an even bigger win than having him pin Roman Reigns in this match. He lost again to Roman on Sunday. The match was good, wasn't great. It was better than the Mania match. That's not saying anything. That's not saying much. I don't think they will do that. I fully expect Roman and Taker to get a win here. They shouldn't. I could see Shane maybe winning somehow and that leading to Roman and Shane 2.0 or 2, whatever, at SummerSlam. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? I don't really care about this shit. Oh, The Undertaker's back. Like, dude, I have given zero shits about any match this guy's been involved in for at least 4 years now. And that's just me. Again, I'm not calling you an idiot if you care about this shit. If you like the fact that Taker's back, that's fine. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, I just think it's random as fuck, and I have no desire to see Taker on my TV anymore. I wrote an article about Goldberg, and I said, yeah, I would like to see him come back for one more match, because I know he can have a good match, because I saw the Brock Lesnar match at WrestleMania 33. That was a good match. When was the last good Undertaker match that you've seen? Name me one since 2015. Like, again, maybe a tag team match is the answer, but we saw Taker in a tag team match, and maybe it's because his tag team partner was Kane. But the Brothers of Destruction versus the Wyatt family is not a suitable answer, because that was a glorified squash match that buried the Wyatt family. Fucking buried them 6 feet under, and they never recovered. They were already buried well before that, but it was just the icing on the cake. Rant over, let's move on here. At the Average Grunt from Twitter, speaking of The Undertaker, if you had to book The Undertaker for SummerSlam, what match would you put him in? Oh, God, I guess rant isn't over. I guess I didn't read the second question. I wouldn't put him at SummerSlam. Now, I know you're going to be there, my man. That's great. If you want to see The Undertaker in action, then I guess I would have to put him on the show. It'd be a treat for you. But, like, do you even really want to see an Undertaker match at this point? Because they've all been shit for at least, again, 4 years now, at least. If not 5 or 6, dating back to the CM Punk match at WrestleMania 29. But if we had to book a match for SummerSlam, something that makes sense. The only 2 matches, nothing makes sense in WWE anymore, so it doesn't really matter what I say. First of all, I wouldn't put him on SummerSlam. I don't think SummerSlam needs him. They have so much talent they're doing nothing with right now. They don't need The Undertaker. I don't want to see The Undertaker. I don't care. But, because you'll be there, if I had to put him in a match, who would I have him face? So if Roman's going to face Shane, again, likely, Drew and Taker, not saying it'd be a good match, but Taker going in there and just getting the shit kicked at him by Drew is what I would love to see. And Drew winning decisively, that would get him back on track. I would like to see that. Not for the fact, it would be a good match. Yeah, it would have been a good match 10 years ago, not in 2019. Just to see Drew annihilate the dude, I would love to see that. That would make sense coming off of the tag team match. I guess Goldberg could come back, and they could do what they did with Goldberg and Taker, or Lesnar and Taker, a few years ago when Taker came back to go after Lesnar to get his rematch from WrestleMania 30. You could do the same thing. Goldberg comes back, and he wants a rematch with Taker, so maybe he cost Taker the tag team match at the pay-per-view. Again, I don't want to see any of this happen. I don't want to see a rematch. But at least it would make sense. At least Goldberg would want his win back. And they can make up for that atrocious abomination of a match from SummerSlam, or from Super Showdown. That's one idea. The McIntyre thing is another idea. Beyond that, no interest in seeing Taker against anyone at SummerSlam. So those are your only real 2 options, and even the Goldberg one is a bit of a stretch, just because I do not really want to see Taker Goldberg 2 after the travesty that we witnessed at Super Showdown. John Ritland at Reborn again from the Twitter machine. Check out his awesome YouTube content, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Awesome stuff. His first question was, can WWE TV get any more boring than it currently is? This loaded roster and the fans deserve so much better. Be careful what you say, because I think they could find a way to make it more boring than it already is. Absolutely. There is always a way to make things worse. I've said before, it cannot get much worse than what we've seen on Raw and SmackDown recently. Somehow it has, with the excessive amount of 2 out of 3 falls matches and elimination matches on these shows. So never say that, but it is pretty boring right now. SmackDown, I think, is worse off because it's quickly losing its identity. Any identity it had, any shred of identity and personality that it had left from when the brand split was still treated like a legitimate thing, is gone with this wild card shit. Because now we're just seeing raw scraps on SmackDown. It's becoming the same show that it was a decade ago. 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, SmackDown was Raw 2.0. That's what it's becoming again. At least at one point in 2016, 2017 for the first half. I mean, even during the Jinder shit, it wasn't a great time on SmackDown, but at least it was different than Raw. For better or for worse. At least you could watch SmackDown, see different stars, see different matches, see different feuds. We see the same feuds transpire on both fucking shows now. It's the same shit. Why? Who cares? At this point, who gives a fuck? The Miz appears more on SmackDown than he does on Raw. The guy's more of a SmackDown star than he is a fucking Raw star. Same thing with Roman. He's more of a Raw guy now than he is a SmackDown guy, despite moving to SmackDown in Superstar Shakeup. So again, it's pretty boring right now. It could always be worse. But yes, we fans, and definitely the roster, deserve so much better. His second question, did you see all the pics of the curtained-off sections at Stomping Grounds, SmackDown, and Raw? Do you think WWE can turn this around, or will the live crowd size continue to shrink? I mean, they could always turn it around. They had record low attendance and ratings and shit in 95, and they turned it around. I think those days are long gone. I don't think we're getting another Attitude Era. They could always turn things around. I don't think they will overnight. Maybe in time. But I have seen the pictures. Alexa sent me a picture of SmackDown last night. I saw the Stomping Grounds sections, curtained off and shit, which was pretty embarrassing for a pay-per-view. I mean, I know they're in Washington. It's not like they're in New York City. But even then, even the hotter cities, I don't think are sold out. It's not like wrestling is so hot in New York or Chicago. Like, even there, the crowds aren't as full as they used to be. But yeah, I have seen the pics. It's sad to see, but if we fucking lambasted TNA for it, we should do the same thing to WWE. It's sad. It's embarrassing. They got to turn the shit around. I think they can. I don't know what it takes, what they're gonna have to do to get to that point. But for right now, it's going down quickly. It's not a slow decline anymore like it has been the last couple of years. Now it's just a fucking rapid fire decline, and they got to turn this shit around. They got to turn this ship around before it turns into the Titanic. At the _Durbinator from Twitter, his question was, kind of on a similar note, given the recent low attendance rates and low viewership, with no signs of improvement in my opinion, what do you feel WWE currently produces that is worth the casual viewer's time? That's a great question. It's funny because I try to focus on the positive, and I don't think many people would get that gist. After hearing me rant about the shows here on hashtag on WrestleRant Radio and my reviews, I think that gimmick might be dead now after what I've seen on Raw and SmackDown the last couple of months, if not longer. It's hard to be positive with a product like this. Let's put it that way. But what is worth the casual viewer's time? Great question. So, a bit of a spoiler alert. I am working on something for What Culture right now, where I am writing up about X amount of things that are worth watching. On Raw and SmackDown right now. Obviously, NXT is great, so continue to watch NXT. But you're not talking about NXT. You're talking about the main stuff. So I would say NXT. NXT UK is good. 205 Live is honestly even getting better. 205 Live has been pretty damn good the last couple weeks. It was great about a year ago. Tampered off for a while. Alexis actually voluntarily watched 205 Live with me last night, which is a first. And we've been together for a year now. For the first time, aside from that one time we were at a SmackDown taping, we saw 205 Live afterward. We watched 205 Live on the network together last night. That's a step in the right direction, because I like 205 Live. It's not the best show. It has its dead weeks, but she even said it's getting better. So that's an encouraging sign. I don't know if it's going to be that way next week, but that's from one. I mean, she's not a casual fan really as much anymore, but that's one person's experience. On Raw and SmackDown, what is there worth watching for? Well, the Firefly Funhouse for one. I know John would not agree with that. I know he hates that shit, or at least he did at one point. I don't know if he still does. I think I like the Firefly Funhouse stuff a lot, just because it is different in the right way, not the wrong way. I like that stuff. Even, again, I don't like Alexa Bliss and Bayley again at the next pay-per-view, but I like what they're doing with Bliss and Cross. I do. I think the story they're telling there is good, and it's consistent. It's what you would see on any other television show. I like it. Again, there's a few other things I don't want to give away at this point, but the 24/7 stuff, so shockingly, has actually been entertaining for the most part. Not everyone's a fan of it. I don't think John Ritland is a fan of it either. But I've seen a couple of other people say, that they don't like it. I've liked it so far. The wedding stuff I thought was funny. I'm a big Drake Maverick fan. I'm quickly becoming an R-Truth fan again through the 24/7 title. There's a few different things. Kofi, I think, has been awesome as WWE champion. He needs a real rival that he can kind of bounce off of. But other than that, I think he's had a great reign. So again, not everything is awful. There are a few things that are like, okay, that's worth watching, that could be good, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk more about it in detail and more, in more detail in that article for What Culture. Hopefully within the next week or so. It'll be up on my social media if you want to check it out. But those are a few things I think are worth the casual viewer's time. Now, that being said, a lot of those things take up maybe 10 minutes of TV every single week. So if you're only watching for 10 minutes on YouTube, like, you can watch any of the Firefly Funhouse segments on YouTube. So yeah, you don't really need to watch Raw and SmackDown to, get the Firefly Funhouse or even the R-Truth stuff, because it's all over YouTube. So if that's what it takes for you to get the best parts of Raw and SmackDown, then so be it. Bornley, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Twitter, their question was, what is with the constant 2 out of 3 falls matches? This is getting pretty redundant. Yeah, they did it last week. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? But after it came out a few days later from Brian Alvarez, credit to him, from Wrestling Observer newsletter, radio, whatever, from, the Dave Meltzer show. He said, obviously, he was the one who broke the news about how there's going to be no more wrestling during ad breaks. At least wrestling that we don't see. Like on SmackDown, where we see it in the picture-in-picture, in the corner during commercials. Other than that, no wrestling during commercial breaks. Then it became clear they were doing the 2 out of 3 falls because they want to do a fall before they go to commercial and pick up with the second fall when they get back. That's why they're doing more out of 2 out of 3 falls matches. It's like having rounds without actually having rounds. And it's so fucking lazy. So again, just do the match before you go to commercial. There is a way to space out commercials to make sure you get a full match. And again, it's different with live TV. Lucha did it, but they were a taped show. No other show does it with live television. Ring of Honor doesn't do it with live TV. Impact, New Japan, like, no one has a live weekly television show. The same way WWE does. And, that's probably part of the problem. Not to say they shouldn't be live, but, like, it's a lot easier for those companies to do it. Lucha Underground, because they have it in the can, and they can put in the commercial breaks after the fact, after the matches are over. With live TV and things go over and under, it's hard to say. It's going to make formatting an even bigger issue. But I'd rather have them go back to doing what they were doing previously, with the wrestling during their commercial breaks, if this is what we're going to be getting. With them almost always going to a third fall, and it's almost always the same result. Save that shit for when it matters. Don't do it every week. It's just, now it's getting to the point of, like, pure ridiculousness. Before, TV wasn't that good. Now it's just, like, bad. Now it's bad. They're doing the same shit literally every week. Literal same shit. Maybe not shit, not like poop, but it is poop. I don't like seeing Sammy and Kevin losing every fucking week to the New Day. Same shit, different week. At Jeremy in 8911 here, from Twitter, their first question was, thoughts on it looking like we're getting Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title at Extreme Rules? I like it a lot. I saw Finn Balor, the segment last night, I'm like, okay, who's stepping up to challenge him? Then I saw Nakamura, I'm like, okay, color me intrigued. I like this. It's something new. We saw one match between them on NXT 3 years ago. It was never a full-fledged feud. This could be good. I like that. Balor was left off of Stomping Grounds. So it's good to see him back on TV. It's not like he's hurt. He just hasn't been on TV. He was barely on TV after Money in the Bank. But yeah, it's cool to see they're actually trying. Now, again, that's a tease. Will they actually do something with it next week? That's the question. We'll see. We'll see if they get TV time. If they're left off the show, who knows? But I really like the idea of a Balor-Nakamura program. Gives Balor someone to work with. The Andrade feud, I mean, again, he beat him clean as a sheet at Super Showdown, so there's no real reason to continue that. Nakamura is not doing anything right now. Rusev, I think, wants to leave. He's been off TV for a little while. Nakamura's been off TV for a while, too. It's cool to see him back. The guy was a big star about a year ago, fizzled off fairly quickly. So at least they're doing something with him, and I like the idea of a Balor-Nakamura program for the IC title. I really do. So I'm looking forward to that. And the matches could be good, too, if they really allow them to go all out the same way they were in NXT. Maybe not to that extent. I know it's never going to be like that again on the main roster. But if they're just allowed to go out there and have a really good match, like Ricochet and Joe did at Stomping Grounds, then still, I think it could be a really, really good match. Jeremy's second question, do you think we're getting a fatal four-way for the SmackDown Tag Team titles at Extreme Rules? Well, Kevin Owens walked out on Sami Zayn last night, so there was no follow-up on SmackDown. I don't know what was up with that. It might just be forgotten by next week. I don't know. But if they split up and they go to their respective shows, then that's one less team. So they could do a three-way. I actually like the idea of a three-way with Heavy Machinery, who look great at Stomping Grounds. Their best match easily I've ever seen of theirs. Heavy Machinery, New Day, and Bryan and Rowan make sense to me for the tag titles at Extreme Rules. So, yeah, I don't know if we're getting a four-way. A four-way would make sense, but after what we saw with Owens and Zayn on the show last night, which, again, was a little weird, maybe Owens finally got sick of losing all the time with Sami, I don't know. Then if they're not involved, still, I would like to see a three-way, but a fatal four-way would be good, too, to get Owens and Zayn on the show, even if they don't win. Which they probably shouldn't, because they're not on the same brand, and it would be weird to have a SmackDown Tag Team champions with one guy from one show and the other guy from the other, but, again, what the fuck is the brand split anymore? Iwagu91 from Twitter, if Marty Scurll decides to leave Ring of Honor, will he sign with AEW? That's a softball question, my man. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he is leaving Ring of Honor. He is currently 1/3 of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, but I think if he wasn't leaving, they would have put the belt on him by now. He's gotten so many, the world title. He's gotten so many shots at that top title, and he's lost every single time. And it's sad because I think he can be a great world champion. I like Matt Taven, but he'd be better than Matt Taven. They should have put the belt on him even before they left, but I guess they don't really want to invest in him too much before he leaves. Again, he is the 6-man tag team champion, but that title means nothing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I do think he's leaving, and I do think he's going to AEW. He's definitely, I know his girlfriend's in WWE, but so is fucking Adam Cole and Britt Baker. Adam Cole's in NXT. Britt Baker didn't follow, him to NXT. I think she probably could have, but she didn't. She went to AEW to be the face of their women's division. So I think Marty Scurll is absolutely 120% AEW bound. I'd be shocked if he went anywhere else. I'd be shocked if he went to WWE. I'd be shocked if he went to Impact. I'd be shocked if he even re-signed to the Ring of Honor, or even go back to New Japan, which he's been doing recently. I'd be shocked if he stayed there. I think he is absolutely AEW bound by the end of 2019. His second question, why hasn't there been another Cruiserweight Classic despite the acclaim that the tournament got in 2016? Well, two reasons. Well, one reason really, and then kind of a 1A. We already have 205 Live. So we already have the Cruiserweights. We already see them on TV every week, albeit on the network, but they already have their own show. It's not like with the women. We don't have a women's show. We have women on Raw and SmackDown and NXT. And they've signed a lot of the women from the Mae Young Classic, which is why they brought it back to get more talent and whatnot. But, what was I going to say? That they don't have a women's show, like I said. They don't have a women's show, a full-fledged, hour-long, only devoted to the women's show on the WWE Network, the same way that they do 205 Live. So that's why they bring it back, because it's a cool tournament to do every year. The Cruiserweight Classic was absolutely amazing. Was the source of some of the best wrestling in 2016. Fantastic event. Now that they have 205 Live, they've kind of done the Cruiserweight Classic. If you watch 205 Live, they've done tournaments in the last couple of years, leading into WrestleMania 34, and then again leading into WrestleMania 35, where they do a tournament to either crown a new champion or crown a new number one contender to the title. And those tournaments were amazing. Both tourneys on 205 Live had great wrestling. So that's really the Cruiserweight Classic reincarnated. It's not what it was, obviously, in 2016, but it's still the closest thing that we'll probably get to another Cruiserweight Classic. These days, they just sign people. Like Garza Jr., DJZ, ACH, Trevor Lee would all flourish in a Cruiserweight Classic. But instead of holding another CWC, they just signed them. They just signed them to NXT. So I don't think we really need another Cruiserweight Classic. They already have a majority of the talent in wrestling right now, and any talent that isn't in WWE is signed up by other promotions and they can't use. So I don't really think that we need one. It would be cool to see it brought back, but we already kind of have it every week on 205 Live, and they bring back the tournaments every year anyway, leading up to WrestleMania, based off the last 2 years anyway. His third question, with night one of this year's G1 Climax likely not selling out, what do you think that New Japan Pro Wrestling has to do to sell out future events in the U.S.? I do think New Japan has a lot of buzz, obviously. Not as much buzz here in the U.S. as they do in Japan, obviously. But I think a big reason why those shows did so well in the US a few years ago was because, honestly, Kenny Omega was on the card. Kenny Omega was the biggest American star they had on their show. Who do they really have now that fits the Kenny Omega mold? Jay White? He's not that guy packing in buildings. I don't think so. I like Jay White a lot. He's not Kenny Omega level. They don't really have that guy. I'm trying to think. I mean, Jon Moxley's there just for the time being. But the problem is that he's in AEW, and I think I might have mentioned this last week, he's not even allowed to wrestle in the U.S. for New Japan, despite being the U.S. champion. That's a clown move. How the fuck does that happen? I think Moxley being in the card would have helped ticket sales because people want to see Moxley right now. The guy's a hot commodity, but he won't even be on the show. So that's probably a factor, a big factor as to why the show's not selling out. He's a big star here in the U.S. that people know, that people are familiar with from his time in WWE, and he's a real big star right now. New Japan, they have a lot of great talent. They don't really have that one big, I mean, Omega was Canadian, but like that one big American hero that they've, not that they should build their whole company around an American guy just to boost ticket sales here in the U.S., but they don't really have that. I think Omega really left behind a big void that has not been filled since he left. And I think Omega can go back to New Japan and wrestle when he wants. But I don't think he can wrestle when he wants for New Japan. But he's not going to be like signed to them the same way that a Jay White or an Okada would be. And Jericho's going back a few times, which is cool. But again, he's not there full time. So he might do big numbers for one show. But it's not going to be like, and I think that was over in Japan anyway, not here in the States. So having a Jericho or a Moxley on the show would be huge, but they're not allowed to work the New Japan shows here in the States because they're signed to AEW. So I think that's what they need to do to sell out future events, is to have a big American star on the show. Whether it be a Cody Rhodes or a Kenny or a Moxley, but none of those guys can't. So maybe they have to find someone else and start building up around them. I don't know. I mean, Juice Robinson is great, but he's not the guy to pack in buildings. Let's put it that way. RJ_Marceau from the Twitter machine, Mr. Marceau's question was, thoughts on the NXT Breakout Tournament? I think it's amazing, and I can't wait to see these guys compete. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it too. I'm a big fan of the NXT Breakout Tournament. But let's not pretend here that they didn't steal this idea from Ring of Honor. I've seen a lot of hate for Ring of Honor in the last number of months since the Elite left. Because of, low ticket sales, and rightfully so. That shit's embarrassing. If they can't even come close to packing in a full house at Hammerstein Ballroom, and I would go to that show, but I'll be away in England when that show happens on the 20th of July, unfortunately. I would love to go. I love the Hammerstein Ballroom. I love the Ring of Honor shows. I can't. Their attendance is in the toilet for a lot of these big shows. Even a show like New York, again, we were talking before with WWE and their hot markets. New York's a hot market. They're not clamoring to go see Ring of Honor right now. That's a problem. Because a lot of these guys that they went to go see in the past, like the Elite, are no longer there. And people aren't buying a ticket to see Matt Taven, it seems like. So anyway, but Ring of Honor, they get a lot of hate. They got this idea from Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor's had this top prospect tournament now for at least a decade, close to a decade. That's where Matt Taven came out of, Punishment Martinez, Damian Priest, Mike Kanellis, Mike Bennett, whatever, Leo Rush, all came out of the top prospect tournament in Ring of Honor. Now, the only difference between the Breakout Tournament and the Top Prospect Tournament is that the Breakout Tournament features people that we know. The Top Prospect Tournament, I don't think is exciting. It's not as exciting as this Breakout Tournament will be, because I don't know anyone in the Top Prospect Tournament from year to year. Usually it's a lot of randos from the Northeast area, from the indie scene. One or two I may recognize, but that's about it. By and large, I know none of the guys that compete in that tournament. The Breakout Tournament, we know at least half, if not more, of these guys in the tournament. DJZ from Impact. I think he's wrestling tonight. Joaquin Wilde. I don't know how you pronounce his new first name for NXT. Joaquin, whatever. Wilde versus Garza Jr. Angel Garza. He spent some time in Impact. He's really, really good. ECH, now known as... what's his new name? Albert Hardy Jr. was the name that he was using for a while. Jordan Miles is his new name in NXT. He is awesome. I'm a big ACH fan. I've been saying for years that he belongs in WWE. I'm very glad to see him in WWE. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in NXT in this Breakout Tournament. I would love to see him win. Jonah Rock, I'm not really familiar with. I know he's on the NXT house shows, the live events, but he looks to have potential. Asian dude. I don't know what his name is. I honestly forgot, but there's another dude I wasn't really familiar with, and I know he was of Asian descent or whatever. So I apologize for that description, but that's all I remember him by. I'm not looking at the lineup or anything. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. And there was a couple other guys, too. Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes, I believe his new name is, from Impact. He's really good. And Shane Strickland, Killshot from Lucha, is fucking great. I don't know how great he'll be in NXT, but if NXT, if Ricochet's work and stuff like that is any indication, they'll let these guys go out there and do their thing. He's going to be a big start, though. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this tournament a lot. I think it's going to be a great tournament. I'm really excited for it. And it's cool to see a lot of these guys that have yet to appear on NXT TV all put into one tourney so the fans can get familiar with them and stuff like that, because they have so much fucking talent in NXT right now that have not seen the light of day until this tournament. So that's awesome. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm really excited for this tourney. I don't know who's coming out on top. I would love to see Strickland win or ACH. I don't think he's winning, but it'd be cool if he did. They have a lot of star power in this thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be amazing too, and I'm really excited for the next couple of weeks of NXT TV. And don't forget, the winner gets a title shot too. So we could see Killshot, whatever his new name is, I forgot what his new name is, versus Shane Strickland versus Velveteen Dream. Woof. That would be good. That would be good, my man. So I would love to see him win the whole thing for the NXT North American title in Toronto. Take my money. Next couple questions come from @Scarlet1. First one being, best and worst of WWE stomping grounds. Best, the first half of the show I thought was great. I thought the Cruiserweight title match and the kickoff show was fantastic. I thought the SmackDown Tag Team title match was really good. Way better than I had any right to be. Joe and Ricochet was my personal favorite match of the night. I love that match. Becky and Lacey was better than I thought it would be because their first match wasn't really that good. It was okay. It was a good match. It wasn't great, but it was good. Not bad, like their Money in the Bank match, which was completely forgettable. And then there was another match. I think I'm forgetting here. What was the second match on the show? Becky and Lacey, and then not Roman. Roman and McIntyre, I'd put that in the worst. Kofi and Ziggler I'd put in the worst, too. That was so fucking boring. That match was so boring, in my opinion. Good God, I could not have given two shits. And the main event I'd put in the worst category, too. I knew what they were going for, and it made sense, but it didn't make for, like, a very compelling main event. Yeah, the babyface won, but, like, who gives a shit? I just wasn't a fan of that. I'm looking at the Stomping Grounds thing right now. I'm looking at what the second match was. Kevin Owens and Sammy versus The New Day. How could I forget? I thought that was a good match, too. I thought that was a really good match. So, yeah, the first half of the show I would put in the best category. The worst I put in the second half of the show I'd put in the worst category. Overall, I thought it was a good show, though. One of the better pay-per-views this year. Not saying much, but I thought it was a good show overall, though. Their second question. Did you hear about Seth Rollins' criticisms of Dean Ambrose / Jon Moxley's criticisms of WWE? So, yeah, I did. In a nutshell, basically Rollins said that he shouldn't be complaining because if he attempted to make the most of his situation towards the tail end of his WWE run, then there's no need to complain. I don't know if I agree with that. I thought Moxley came across great in that interview on Talk is Jericho. Yeah, he was bashing the company, but he was bashing the creative process. Now, if Rollins said that about CM Punk, different story. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. But it didn't really seem like Moxley... I mean, he started off the podcast by saying, I'm gracious for all the time I spent there. I'm gracious and thankful for this company, to this company, for everything they provided me with over the last number of years of my career. So I don't really know where Rollins is coming from with that. I thought that was kind of a low blow. And even Moxley knew. He said in the interview that Rollins knew where he was coming from when he left. Rollins begged him to stay. And he said no. And now he's going to be like, oh, you shouldn't be complaining. A lot of his complaints are legit. And maybe if Rollins said, oh, I have no issue with my creative process. Well, maybe so, dude, because you're the fucking Universal Champion. But the same cannot be said for a Moxley, for a McIntyre, for an AJ Styles, for Ricochet, a Samoa Joe. The lines they feed these people are fucking terrible. So it may not be the case with him. Doesn't mean that's the case with everyone else, though. So I thought that was a bit weird. I don't know if there's any bad blood between Rollins and Ambrose, Moxley, whatever. But I thought that was just a weird thing for him to say. Scarlett's third question. Any early predictions for WWE Extreme Rules 2019? Not really. I think Rollins and Becky retain, as they obviously should. I think Bayley retains. I have no desire to see Alexa Bliss become champion. I don't think Kofi's dropping the belt. I would love to see Samoa Joe win the championship. I don't think he will. Like Jeremy said earlier, I think we are getting a multi-team tag team title match at Extreme Rules. I think we're getting the Usos versus the Revival for the Raw tag team titles at Extreme Rules. Ricochet and AJ probably for Extreme Rules. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of good matches on tap for that show. Some filler, some obvious filler. But I do think overall it could be a good show. Now, the lack of extreme stipulations completely defeats the purpose of the pay-per-view. But whatever, that's nothing new. At E13A with the final question of the day, their question was, will The Undertaker make Shane McMahon look strong? Yeah, definitely. I think so. Why not? Got to get the best in the world looking great going into SummerSlam. Got to make Shane look strong. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he will. I would laugh my ass off. And honestly, this is not too far-fetched at all. If Shane pinned The Undertaker, which, again, I get it because you want to put more heat on Shane, but this shit, with people saying like, oh, gotta get heat on Shane, it's going to mean something when he eventually loses. How much, though, will it actually mean? The guy's fucking nearing on 50. He's not an active competitor. Okay, so if Shane can get this much heat, then you're okay with, like, bringing in Vince Russo and putting the Universal title on him. I don't think so. Then what makes Shane any different? Because what, he's jumped off a fucking Hell in a Cell before? It doesn't. The guy's not an active member of the roster. Get him away from this shit. I don't care how much heat Shane has. And he may get his comeuppance in the end, and that's great. Is it going to make Roman look better? I don't think Roman's going to really benefit. He'll be back to where he was before. So nothing gained, nothing lost. Miz has lost a lot to Shane McMahon. The guy looks like a fucking loser right now. So even if Miz beat Shane at some point, will he be back to where he was? I don't think so. I think he's worse off than he was a month or two ago. Definitely so. Significantly so. So, Shane pinning Taker could absolutely happen, making Shane look strong in the process. I would much rather see Drew pin Shane. Not Shane, well, that too, but I'd rather see Drew pin Taker at the pay-per-view and pick up a big win. But I am absolutely prepared for Drew to be taking the pile driver, the Tombstone pile driver at the pay-per-view, and that's what leads to the victory for Undertaker and Roman Reigns. So I'm already ready for it. I'm ready to complain about it, so just bring it on. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 291 of #AskGSM here today for the 26th of June, 2019. We're well over an hour in. That flew by. And that goes to show how great your questions were if I wasn't even looking at the time here. I think I stopped the show once, because I fucked something up with the questions earlier. But yeah, that's a good sign. So thank you guys for your awesome questions. As always, continue to send them in on the social medias. First on Twitter at WrestleRant. Tweet me at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave your question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So once again, guys, like I said at the start of the show, if you skipped ahead, didn't hear it, whatever, two things. One, big interview on WrestleRant Radio with Ring of Honor World Television Champion this Thursday, tomorrow, with Shane Taylor. It's going to be a great interview. I already recorded it. It's going to be on the show tomorrow, as well as the written article, hopefully tomorrow or Friday on dailyddt.com. And then WrestleRant Radio, again, is now available everywhere. I don't know why I did not do this sooner. Don't ask me why. I'm an idiot. I don't know. But now you can listen to WrestleRant Radio literally anywhere. Whether it be nextairwrestling.net is the go-to place. I upload the episodes there every single week. That's where it started. But it's also now on iTunes, where it's been for the last year and a half. But not everyone has an Apple phone, so it makes it a little harder to listen to the shows. So you can now listen to the show on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. So all the big platforms. Download the show today. The episodes go up every single Thursday. I try to upload them at midnight. I try to upload them to It's on Podbean too. That's my host website for the show. They're on Podbean as well. They go up every single Thursday. I try to get them up there by midnight Eastern time. So they're all ready for you to go if you want to listen to it on the way to work or whatever on Thursday morning. Again, interviewing Ring of Honor World Television Champion Shane Taylor on the show tomorrow. Check it out. A lot of other cool interviews coming to the show in the coming weeks. We already have one with, or two actually, one with Flip Gordon, which I recorded for the Bleacher Report article I did in Northeast Wrestling about a week ago. That's going to be up on Wrestle Rant Radio likely next Thursday. We had Kelly Klein on last week. Brad Hollister, who's a standout indie wrestler here in the Northeast area. He's a great talent, one to watch for sure. A near hour-long interview with him will likely be up when I'm away in England in a few weeks. And by the way, I'll be away for a while. I'll be away for like a week and a half. 2 straight Wednesdays. So what we might do, I'll probably record a show early and put it up on a Wednesday. When that week comes, probably, I think it's going to be the 17th, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at the calendar. Yeah, it's the 17th. So July 17th, we'll have a pre-recorded show. We'll probably have people sending questions early. The 24th will also be gone for. I might just wait till that weekend to publish something, to do a show. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure yet how this is going to work, but that's not something to worry about for another few weeks. But anyway, guys, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. Very much appreciate your support of the channel. And we're very much closing in on 3,000 subscribers. So subscribe today for content literally every single day of the week. You won't regret it. And turn on notifications too while you're at it. Have a great rest of your week, guys. I'm AskGSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.